If you were to ask me what the most ideal railfan outing would be for me personally, I'd probably give you two words: freedom and time. The freedom to go wherever I want, whatever line I want, and just have the freedom to bounce around between line and line, spot and spot, just catch a bunch of different trains at a bunch of different spots. And then the time to do that, having a decent time frame to hit up at least two or more spots on two or more lines, you know. Somewhat like how Danny Harmon does it down in Florida. He kind of just lets his scanner guide him to the trains and whatnot. That's kind of... That would be my personal ideal rail fanning outing. And the best part about having an outing, or about going on an outing like that, is you don't have to have a plan. You just go wherever and catch whatever. You're not, like, planning to see a heritage unit and, like, trying to find a spot, you know. You're just letting the scanner guide you, I think, is the key there. Letting your resources guide you to the trains. And that's what I was originally going to do on Saturday, February 3rd, 2023. However, my Railfan Saturday started much earlier than that. It started on a Friday night. Instead of getting up really early and going out right away, I ended up staying up really late on Friday, probably till past midnight, just watching the Cleveland-Fort Wayne Facebook group just get obliterated with posts, comments, videos of what initially seemed like just another casual derailment on Norfolk Southern system due to some effect of precision scheduled railroading. But that in and of itself turned out to be a huge, messy, catastrophic, fiery, toxic, essentially repeat of Lac Mégantic, Quebec, only in East Palestine, Ohio, and instead of crude oil, it's vinyl chloride. I know, even better, right? And this thing made national news and everything. This was a countrywide spectacle. And this particular incident struck a few nerves with me for a few reasons. One, this thing happened in East Palestine on the Fort Wayne line, and the Fort Wayne line basically feeds the Cleveland line all but a few trains, so having the Fort Wayne line blocked, there's now nothing moving on the Cleveland line. The tracks are as dead as my old Beagle. The second reason is I'm literally within driving distance of this national laughingstock, and just the fact that the Cleveland and Fort Wayne lines are basically my home rails. 95% of the time I go out, I'm normally on the Cleveland line. And it's just so local, and it's like, this happened in my territory. This Lac Mégantic type accident just happened, like, basically right in my backyard. It's crazy. And the third reason being is, it still feels like just a few days ago I was out in East Palestine shooting my documentary, Hotspot to Hotspot, which covers, of course, the Cleveland and Fort Wayne lines. But it's like I was just out there in this quiet, peaceful little town. Even with the trains rolling by, it was still very peaceful environment. Nice, wide open shots both ways. You got a defect detector, like, almost a mile down that's nice and clear, and, you know. And it just amazes me how such a little town can just be rocked by something like this. It's insane. Anyway, so after all of that, I still followed through with my Saturday rail fanning. I went to bed probably after 12:30 in the morning and got up at 4:30 in the morning. A whole day of sleep-deprived rail fanning. It's the best kind. I figured that since I was up in time, I would start out north on the ex-New York Central water level route, now CSX's Erie West subdivision, and the ex-Nickel Plate Lake Erie district, now Norfolk Southern, in order to catch Amtrak Lakeshore Limited. Instead of going to Unionville like I normally do, I instead chose a spot just west of there in Perry, here at Davis Road. You've got nice wide open views on both sides. You've got the CP Perry here on the Lake Erie district. You've got signals on both mains. I went too far. CP Perry over there, and then you've got the intermediates down there at the QD 145, and then there's a defect detector down there. One of the reasons why I chose this spot is for the view of the nuclear power plant, and you've also got a nice little field shot here creating a nice little rural vibe, and I just really like I really like these kind of rural shots. They're pretty cool. Now, the main reason I chose this spot was because I apparently was mentally into, like, the beginning of April, because I thought that there would be daylight by the time 6:30 in the morning rolls around, which is normally when Amtrak would rumble through here, of course when it's on time. But sleep-fatigued me forgot that it was still the beginning of February, and that by the time aforementioned time rolled around, it would still be as pitch black as any new Norfolk Southern C6M. But I stayed at this spot anyway, and I guess it's a good thing that I did, because as soon as I got there, I saw a train parked there, that being the CSX I-004. And, I'm just gonna start the video. You'll see why here in a second. Alright guys, we are here at Davis Street in Perry, Ohio right now. We've got a CSX eastbound coming, and possibly a westbound on CSX. So yeah, down there is, you can barely see it, but that's the nuclear power plant. Once it gets light out, we'll be able to see it.
One number 89174, repeating 89174 on the date 020423, location QD 146.8, Infinity I-00403. CSX Team 533, employees A.L. Schreiner. Clean line 6B is in Bravo. Check false partial activation. Account automatic grade crossing warning device malfunction at County Line Road. Repeating County Line Road, road crossing. The milepost QD 140.1. Repeating QD 140.1 on all tracks. Flagger is no. Over.
Number 89174, date 020423, location QD 146.8, CNE train ID I-00403, engine CSXT 533, employee A.L. Schreiner copying, circle line 6B, check false partial activation, count automatic grade crossing warning device malfunction at County Line Road, road crossing at milepost QD 140.1 on all tracks, flagger no, over.
Sure, after good repeat, OK and effective 05460546 hours, dispatcher initials JMP.
Eight 99174, OK and effective at 0546 hours, dispatcher JMP.
That's Roger. Now you got things going, you're okay to proceed on east where you stand. Don't forget to go back to road channel. Thank you. Roger.
Alright, so it sounds like this is the I-00... Yeah. We already listened to that. Alright, so that down there is the I-004 of the 3rd. Just copied an EC1 for a false partial activation somewhere east of here. I don't remember what the milepost was, he said, but there is a grade crossing that falsely activated, so that means he's got to do, I think, if I remember correctly, it's 15 miles an hour through that crossing until it's protected by the train. Down there he stopped and copied the EC1, and now he's got the intermediates down there. I believe that's 145 down there. Yeah, you can see those two green lights. That's 145, I think. So, I can hear him throttling up right now. So here's the I-004.
False partial activation, account automatic grade crossing warning device malfunction. Is that correct? That's good repeat. OK, effective 0549 hours. Dispatcher initials JMP. What do you eventually it'll be too fast for you to talk.
That was the CSX I-004. I think that is the fastest I've ever seen a train start up. I wish they started up as quickly on the Cleveland line as they do out here. So... Okay, even for me that was too many numbers. I didn't catch that. Alright, I can hear the IG dispatcher talking to Amtrak 48. He copied the track authority for crossing malfunction. It's at County Line Road in Unionville, where I normally go for this line. Right now we got a westbound, I think it's M205, I'm not 100% sure. It's got a good leader though, so let's see what it is. Excuse me. About 10 or 15 minutes after the M205, I started hearing Amtrak 48, the eastbound Lakeshore Limited, calling out the signals on the radio. Eventually, somewhere between Ashtabula and Conneaut, it would meet its westbound counterpart, the 49, running approximately 3 hours behind schedule. So I got to see both Amtraks within 1 hour, let alone 1 day. Pretty good.
A2 East, clear 145 up.
So that's the sound of Amtrak 48. He's rumbling down here doing every bit of 79. Yeah, there's his light. And there's the gates.
Track 48, 2 East, clear 143 out. CSX Equipment Defect Detector. File post 145.2. Track 2. No defects. No defects. Total axle 4. End of transmission. CSX Equipment Defect Detector. File post 145.2. Track 1. No defects. No defects. Total axle 4. End of transmission. Track 49. Clear 148. Track 100.
So 4 trains before the sun even came up. That is a record for me. Anyways, after all of that and the luck with Amtrak 49, I decided to start drifting south and east towards Alliance because I knew since the Cleveland line has no movement, if I wanted to get any trains, I would have to go east. East of Alliance to either the Youngstown line or the Bayard line. I'll talk about the Bayard line later. Alright, so we moseyed on down here to RD86, or CP86, here at Ravenna, at the Lake Street crossing, where I'm trying not to go blind. And, way down yonder on the Chattahoochee, there is... There's something coming on CSX, but way down yonder, that little speck that looks like a thing of lint, that is the 12N stopped and tied down and all locked up there behind the signals. He stopped because there's no route east of here due to the 32N derailment. So, I hear prime movers, so there's CSX coming. We're gonna boogie on down to Diamond Street. Alright, we're down here at Diamond Street now. I don't know if you can quite tell, but the intermediates down there, I think it's called Black Forest. They're lit up, and I heard the, whatever this train is, call out East Ravenna, which is the intermediates east of us. So we're down here just in time for this westbound, whatever it ends up being, with... Hello? You know what? That's a good horn. I think I'm going to move up a little bit and get Doppler effect. Or at least try to. There, so then I don't have a signal bungalow in my way with these crossings. I say that's pretty good, so, here comes whatever this ends up being. So after the I-138, I decided to start heading towards Alliance, and I figured since I'd be out that way, I'd give my buddies Randy and Ray Meadows a call and see if they wanted to meet up, and they were planning to head out to the Bayard line to possibly catch the 27P, which was coming off at Yellow Creek. I think by the time we got there, it was going through Carrollton, but so Randy sent me the coordinates of the spot he would be at, and I drove down there. It was the Meadows. There was Owen Xavier, Damian Johnstone, Gavin Freese, and we were all there. It was really cold, I must say. It felt like, to me at least, it felt like it was below zero. It was really cold. We had to get back in our vehicles for periods of time. We came back out every so often to see if there was anything coming, and we ended up ultimately meeting at a spot known as Sandy Springs Road on the Bayard line. You've got White Leather Holsteins. I believe that's like some sort of feed mill, and down here is the crossing. It's like this little country road, but nice rural. There's a lot of field and rural vibes to get here, and I really like the Bayard line for that. I should really, White Leather Grain. It's like feed mill, grain mill, something or other. But yeah, it's a nice little spot, really wide open. You can hear horns from like miles away, and it's just a really nice, peaceful little spot. And there's like an intermediate signal there where, hang on, let's pull it back up again. There's like this intermediate signal here. I call it an intermediate. That's probably not what it is. Because the funny thing about this signal, its most restrictive position is yellow, approach. And the only time it changes is when a train gets track authority down this portion of the Bayard line. And so it changes, and then once the train passes through it, it goes back to approach. But as you can see here, I'm going a little bit too far south there, but this is that signal there, and this is, I think this is an interchange with Ojai Rail, I think it is. I don't remember, but it's an interchange with a short line that goes to, I think, Minerva and other places. But yeah, by the time we got to Sandy Spring Road, the 27P was, I think, going through Carrollton. And track speed on most of the Bayard line is only 35 miles an hour. And with a non-qualified crew, it was only 25. Fortunately enough, our 27P was a qualified crew, but it still took him 2 or 3 hours, I think, to get to our location, because, again, the track speed was going really slow by the time it reached us. So yeah, and I'd like to talk about the Bayard line for a second before we get to the aforementioned 27P. The Bayard line before Palestine, I'm going to call that the pre-Palestine era. Before Palestine, the Bayard line didn't see any regularly scheduled over-the-road trains. It saw almost all of the as-needed movements. There's frac sand goes down there, coke, coal, the occasional tanker train. Essentially, anything coming off the Cleveland line that would go to Mingo Junction would take the Bayard line to Yellow Creek, and then hitch the river line to Mingo Junction. But yeah, before Palestine, there's no regular movement on the Bayard line. Even the local that goes down there, I forget what the symbol is, but even the local, I don't know if you can count on it being run on a regular basis. But now during Palestine, the majority of the reroutes are going down the Bayard. Well, as of this video being filmed, the track work in East Palestine is allowing for all the intermodals and some manifest to go through East Palestine, but everything else except 2 trains go through the Bayard line. So, but this was filmed like the day after, and Morrisville, Pennsylvania intermodal facility was considerate enough to make a single stacked 27P so that we wouldn't have to worry about any height or clearance concerns, because there's height and clearance concerns I think there's more of those on the Bayard line than there is on the Youngstown line. There's clearance issues on the Youngstown line, but there's more on the Bayard line. So the 27P that ran the day that was February 4th, that was all single stacked. So here's this 27P with the rest of the goons.
It's gonna take like 5 minutes. Not even. There's 3 guys on this. The pilot's gonna come off. My camera settings are all kinds of.
Those are always the best camera settings.
What are?
All kinds of. Alright, as soon as the second horn goes off, we'll start. Literally, like.
Mine's already rolling.
Sunset. Hello.
It's not where you stand, you're gonna get screwed.
Hello.
Ray's like, hey, what's up? Hello. Hi. Hi. Are you cold? He's like, hey, what's up? Hello.
Alright, we got him.
Alright, I'm starting now.
Alright, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Ray. What do you want? Okay. So once 27P finally went through, I decided to leapfrog him up to Alliance, because he had a Bayard line pilot that he had to drop off for the 66X loaded crude oil train that was stopped there. And he was going to get on and take the 66X down. The 66X had CP foreign power today. It had NS 1038 leading and the Canadian Pacific Hapag-Lloyd GEVO, which is essentially a 40-foot container with AC traction, lights, and a horn. But anyways, we got up to Alliance, I watched 27P stop, he dropped off his pilot, and then as I was going back down to the Bayard line, I heard that somehow the 32N, not the one that derailed, another 32N, somehow managed to sneak into Mahoning siding in front of the 66X. I don't know how. I turned on my radio and he was just there getting track authority to Bayard. So, instead of going back to Sandy Spring Road, I'd eventually go to Rinker Road, which is the crossing east of there, which I had a better view of the signal, and not long after, as I was in the middle of a rant about the signal not having a red aspect, I turned around and there was 32N, so it didn't take all that long. So I guess that was good. But in the meanwhile, here's 27P coming to a stop at Alliance. See behind me, I don't know if you can or not, but that signal is lit up green, meaning he has the track authority down this portion of the line to Bayard. And speak of the devil, here he is. So, here's he.
No switches used. No switches handled. Track authority 254.
Did it? So that's the 32N that I clearly just barely leapfrogged here. Good leader and an okay trailing unit. That 3625 was damaged in a wreck and it got a black unibrow replacement, something or other. I hear him throttling up in the distance. Something that boggles my mind is why that signal is at approach and not danger. That's nice. After I stopped rolling the cameras on 66X, I decided I should probably start heading home, or at least heading towards home, so it wasn't too deathly late by the time it was time for me to go to bed. So, but then I heard there were more trains coming. So, yeah. I figured out how to make it work, though. There were only two, that being the 15M from New York and the 15N out of Conway. Tell me that's not confusing. I was fortunate enough, though, that both of these trains were going the Youngstown line, so I headed towards Youngstown. I know that's not necessarily towards my home, but you'll see where I'm going here. Our first stop is Hubbard at the north stem of a triangle that connects the Youngstown line to the Medville line to Verona, Greenville, and Medville, Pennsylvania. NS-15 Mary is coming south out of Buffalo, New York for Conway, Pennsylvania with 2 CN Bongas on the pole and a decent-sized train. The 15M and the 15N met at CP Center, where the Youngstown line crosses over CSX's Newcastle subdivision in the heart of Youngstown. I moved north to 84 Lumber on Warren Sharon Road, or Old Route 82 for those who call it that, for the 15N, which is now on the move. 15N is daily Conway to Elkhart manifest, but due to the East Palestine derailment is taking the Youngstown line and Lake Erie district to Cleveland, rather than the Fort Wayne and Cleveland line. 15N today is running 1 by 1 on the power configuration, 1 engine on the head end and a UP AC-44 mid-train. By the time I got to 84 Lumber, the head end already beat me there, so I made a quick U-ey and bolted even farther northward to Kinsman and State Route 87. 87 is a very convenient and, dare I say, ideal spot for me at least on the Youngstown line. There's a signal there and an ex-Conrail defect detector. The views of the tracks in both directions are immaculate, and when everything's said and done, I can take 87 all the way home. Talk about convenience. Anyways, I get to the crossing, set up my camera, and start talking profusely into it like a 3 a.m. vlogger. But instead of talking about potions I got off the dark web that'll make Elmo come to life and haunt me and try to kill me, I'm talking about the railroad, and in particular the 15N. As I'm doing that, the intermediate signal behind me at the milepost YG31 comes up high green. Clear. Proceed at maximum authorized speed. A few minutes later, and here he was, the NS-15N, heading north then west to Elkhart in the last minutes of daylight, crossing over State Route 87. A perfect way to end one of the most wild railfan outings I think I've ever been on. that's that. We're going home. Goodbye.